Hey guys, welcome to Beyond the Leash podcast. I'm Nicole.
And I'm Frank.
Thank you for being here today. So a couple days ago, I was Googling around and I found an article that says the top 10 red flags of an uneducated dog trainer.
I love those lists. Those are great.
Right. So the first thing that popped up was has no nationally recognized credentials or training, claims to be self-taught. So,
all right,
want to get into this?
Why don't we just dissect that? So we have top 10. We're going to start with the first is there's no nationally recognized credentials of training or claims to be self-taught. I like that in that it seems like the most logical thing. There should be a national accreditation.
Yes.
But is there?
No.
No, there's not. There's not one. So it's usually self-serving, and people belong to an organization. So if you have Tom's Dog Training Academy, you can certify anyone you want and create a national, national set of standards that you think everyone should adopt, and nobody does.
Exactly. Just like there's no certifications to become a dog breeder either.
Yeah, right. There's some states that are trying to change that. They have some minimum.
Which is something I kind of agree with in a way.
Well, yeah, but that's a whole nother
rabbit hole. Let's not get into that right now.
I don't breed. I don't have a proverbial dog in that fight. But we can get into that another day. But as far as nationally recognized credentials, a lot of people think that there are, and in fact, there aren't.
No,
and I think most trainers are not. I think most trainers are not very honest about that. And,
I was actually. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was talking to a woman that called our company the other day, and she said that she was a dog trainer and she needed help because her daughter's dog, who she trained, is to be a service dog, was acting aggressive towards her daughter. And I told her straight out, I'm like, that can't be a service dog, for one. I'm like, if the dog has any aggression at all, it cannot be a service dog, cannot be an emotional support dog, nothing. You can't take that dog in public if it has aggressive tendencies. But that aside, she was saying, I'm a dog trainer. I read all these books. I went to XYZ school. I have a certificate, but I don't know how to fix this.
Yeah. And why do you think, so what kind of dog trainer do we think she is?
Positive only.
Positive only. And we see that a lot. Mm-hmm. We've had positive only trainers come to us who can't fix things. We've had ethical positive only trainers. They chose what they do. And when something steps outside of that, they will refer out to us or another, qualified, another good trainer. But what is your experience, Nicole? What happens when they come across a dog that has too much aggression, they can't handle it? What's their first recommendation?
To put the dog down.
Put the dog down. We get that over and over and over again.
They would rather put a dog down than use balance training. And then, because a little vibration or shock or maybe, sometimes it's a little harder than that, but is more detrimental than killing a dog.
Yeah, it's a very odd behavior, an odd belief system, but it's very much a deeply embedded belief system, especially she can't even say this country because Europe is going that way and Canada just went that way. There's banned remote collars, and they're simultaneously trying to save more dangerous dogs while limiting the methods and tools with which we use to do that.
Which is a good point. A lot of the rescues, being someone that's worked with rescues for years, they rescue the dogs that are problem and challenge dogs, the dogs that are like, oh, they're aggressive, but it's not their fault. This is how they were raised, which, it could be how they were raised, but it also could be genetics. Some dogs are just, the genetics are more aggressive. So you have to know your dog, you have to know your breed, you have to know their lines. But with that being said, why would you rather kill a dog than help a dog? I've trained multiple aggressive dogs that are better now, and their owners thank me for it. They can take them on walks. They're not lunging after other dogs. They can have them in the house, and they're not worried about them like coming after them because they have something they want. It's just if you can create that, then why would you kill the dog?
Well, right. So I'm obviously we're in agreement on this. We had a trainer years ago who I think she wanted to put him down the dog ultimately, but she had a dog that was going to be her kid's dog, but then it wasn't, and the dog showed was severely dog aggressive in public environments. So I invited her to our group class,
Mm,
and she was stressed out of her mind, and she's not, you know, she's very much with a positive only bent, and she and I are more or less friends. We're pretty much friends.
yeah.
I'd say we're friends. We
Hmm.
used to call each other and stuff. And she wasn't comfortable, but she wouldn't step outside of the boundaries of what she believed training should be.
Hmm.
And so she came to group class. I said, "Well, let me have you feel a remote collar. I'll have her husband feel a remote collar," and got the dog to so a dog that was viciously going after other dogs. I think it took me, I don't know, 8, 10, 11 minutes to have the dog handshake distance, sitting calmly. Now, the dog knew all the commands. She did all that beautifully. The dog
Yeah.
understood it all. But under the distraction and the pressure and the distress of being in an environment that the dog was not comfortable with, the dog couldn't handle it and was flipping out. But as
Hmm.
soon as we gave it the balance, not the
Yeah.
best idea, this is what I want you to do, rewards when the dog was doing the right thing, uh, I was able to get the dog literally handshake distance from another dog in 8 or 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And a few minutes after that, I had the dog literally about a foot from 5 or 6 other dogs. I had a bunch of clients with very well behaved dogs come in, and we surrounded the dog, put pressure in, pressure out. It's a circle of pressure. They come in, they come out, they come in, they come out. And that the dog wound up just being non-reactive. The dog was completely cool, and she's like, "That's fantastic, but I can't do that."
Yeah.
And it was the slightest of things. So
Yeah.
I think the dog eventually, because she couldn't handle, got put down, and it was more for philosophy than the dog truly being. I mean, the dog honestly wasn't a problem. It just not in
It,
our world. Like we see
so
problematic dogs. That was
that brings that brings us to number 6 on this list. We're going to jump around on this list, obviously, because all things are just
sure.
dog training's puzzle pieces. It all comes together, fits together. Like you could be talking about one topic, and then 5 other topics will come into it. So number 6 on this, and I want to hit on number 3 as well, is 6, using a training collar, shock collar, or a prong or choke collar. That is a red flag in a dog trainer. Which no, it's not. It's not. If
It
it's
is to
used
them.
properly, it may be to
It,
a positive only trainer, but
right.
no, with some dogs need that. Dogs learn through touch, so they need that feeling. And then it also brings me to number 3, which guarantees your dog's behavior after the training program. This I kind of agree with because I can guarantee that your dog is going to listen to me. I can guarantee you that I can get your dog to do what it needs to do. I'm not going to guarantee that you can do it because if you don't follow through with the program that I set for you, you're going to fail.
Yeah. So I'm going to go to 3 and then back to 6.
Okay.
We can guarantee the dog's training if the people do what we tell them to do.
Yes.
So I'll go as far as to say I'll guarantee the dog's training for
Mm-hmm.
somebody who will speak the language, and we spoke about that last time, the language of the training, so we can hand the dog off to another skilled client
Mm-hmm.
or even a newer client or a kid, depending on the dog's level of safety,
Yes.
to be able to do that. And I think that definitely falls within ethics. Because if
Mm-hmm.
somebody's unwilling to do it and just refuses, there's nothing. We just can't
Like
do that. You know,
like your
you
friend.
can send, yeah. If the kids, you send your kids to, they're taught up, they're raised speaking Italian, and now you speak English to them, and they don't understand. It's not their fault. It's
No.
just not their fault. So it's a language you have to use. As
Yeah.
far as number 6, uses a training collar, shock collar, prong collar, choke collar, is a red flag. I'm to me, if I was to create this list, the
Mm-hmm.
unwillingness to use that if necessary is a red flag to me. It's a monstrous red flag to me. So it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't mean that if somebody's predominantly positive only, and that's what they prefer. Cool. And if you can get a dog to do that, and you see them with softer Goldens and Shelties, and Border Collies, and Border Collies can be difficult, but
I
still,
love border collies.
they people who make lists like this
Yes.
compete in rally. They compete in dock diving. They can, which is fine. They're
Yeah.
welcome to compete in all that.
Hmm.
But they're not competing in protection sports for the most part. They're not handling aggressive dogs for the most part. They're not handling dogs that have any serious resource guarding. These are the people who throw treats in the sky. And I'm not saying this woman does, uh, but they throw treats in the sky, and they actually make aggressive aggression worse. So
Yeah.
that's been a huge experience of that. So all right, so it takes one. I think it's 1, 3, and 6.
For
What do you?
a sorry.
Go
For
ahead.
a dog that is like, yes, you can train a dog positive only. It's also going to take months upon months. And this is a non-aggressive dog. Say you just have the happy-go-lucky golden retriever. Months upon months, you have to know the exact timing of when to reward the behavior or not reward the behavior by not giving food. If you're doing food based, you can't just go in and be like, oh, I'm just going to give my dog a treat every time it sits. So then your dog's now going to expect a treat every time it sits, and when it doesn't hold that sit for you, it's because you're not giving it that treat.
Right. And to create balance to this
Yeah.
conversation among us, we're talking about mostly the average pet dog.
Yes.
In high performance, even the high performance protection dogs,
Mm-hmm.
most of what we do is reward, whether it's food in the beginning and balls and bites and
Sure.
whatever that may be. Those It's going to be reward, 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 reward. But when the dog decides to go off, and if it decides to bite the decoy when it's not supposed to, or a bystander,
You have to be
there
able to.
has to be a consequence. There
Yeah,
just
there
has
has
to
to
be.
be. Yeah.
So
Otherwise, your dog's going to get that bite, and then it's going to be like, oh, I'm going to do this every time because the that's the reward for the dog. That bite. Dogs, when they're trained that way, they
right,
bite.
right, and I think the mentality among sport dog people varies so much, because I think when you have a dog that potentially bites people, or is trained specifically to bite people,
Yeah.
there's a direct threat to other people, and
Hmm.
so due to lawsuits and you don't want someone else to get hurt. I think people naturally take that a little more seriously. Where the agility dog, the threat is not normally to bystanders, the threat's to the dog. It runs away and gets hit by a car. And then it
Yes.
just seems tragic. But it's still lack of control that created
Mhm.
that situation,
Yeah.
uh,
Exactly.
especially at a
And
distance.
the e-collar does give you that extra control. And why wouldn't you want to put every safety measure possible on your dog and get that recall and, prevent your dog from running out into the street or running into the woods or anything like that, opposed to not having that
Sure.
safety. Like, this is your dog. You say you love your dog and your dog's your whole world.
Prove it.
Why not have that extra safety behind it, those safety measures?
Prove it. Especially if you're into training, even
Yeah.
if you're mostly on the positive side. I mean,
Mhm.
get a good off leash recall, and it's a good off leash recall from across a field that's fenced in with snow fencing at a dog show doesn't count. It
No,
literally doesn't count. As the
no.
dog's in pursuit of a rabbit, squirrel, something it wants desperately.
Yeah, what if it sees a rabbit, a squirrel? What if it sees another person on the opposite side of the street and a car is coming? What if your dog just sneaks out of your house because you have the door open? And then your
Right.
dog's running wild in the neighborhood, and you know, how long are you
Yeah.
gonna let your dog do that?
Yeah. Absolutely. 100%. 100%. All right. What do you want to hit next?
So let's hit number 7. Advises people to be dominant over their dogs. Um, how do
Go
you
ahead.
feel about this,
You want
Rose?
me? You want me to go first?
If you want to, I could go first.
Go ahead. Ladies first.
So I don't necessarily say dominant over your dog. I say leadership. You have to show leadership over your dog. Your dog's looking at you to lead them, to show
Hmm.
them what's right and wrong, to, tell them it's safe, tell them it's not safe, tell them what they should do and what they shouldn't do, just like your children. You have to
Right.
lead your children.
Hmm.
You
I,
took
I
raise
think. Yeah. No. 100%. And I think that the person who wrote this is closer to my age than yours.
Yeah.
So we come from, like, when I first started the dog training company, it was a lot of that. There was a
Yeah.
lot of dominance, dominance, dominance,
Mhm.
alpha nonsense. And so I think there's a lot of leftover from that. I think this will bleed into your number 4, which you can take it from there too. Uh, I think that this is gonna, but I'm not. There are dogs. There are dogs that 100% need that. It
Yes,
is not common, but there are dogs that are so severely dominant and so severely aggressive, if not kept in check, that that is a thing.
I
But
own two of those
for your
dogs.
average Labrador, it's not. Right?
Yes, I do. My boyfriend and I own two of those dogs. They're dominant dogs and they need to be kept in their place. They need to, training, structure.
Yep.
Otherwise they will lash out. They will think that they're king of the castle, play sheriff of the house, and, you know, one thing leads to another and
And
they might do something stupid.
that causes problems in like going away and the ability
Mhm.
to have someone to watch them. You can't just call Rover when you have dogs like that.
No,
And
which
have some cute 20-year-old, like hipster dude or whatever, like coming in to walk your dogs. He's going to get eaten alive.
hipster dude that's not gonna, yeah, we're gonna come home to like our dogs fighting each other, our freaking
Yeah,
standing on the countertops, eating
the
everything that
kids
we
are going
have.
to be passed out.
I know
They'll
we
be
were
eating the treat bag off of his belt. Yeah, it'll be horrible.
I know we
Horrible.
were talking about going to San Diego for Thanksgiving, and those plans got canceled. Not only because we just moved to Florida and don't know anybody that would watch our crazy dogs. Our one dog that's an angel is sick now and has to have Blue every other day.
Oh, yeah.
So
Um, number 4, touts. So number 4, touts the dog whisperer as an expert.
yeah.
Yeah.
So just a heads up, guys. The dog whisperer uses e-collars, prong collars, and all of that. He just knows how to hide it on TV.
Yeah, well, I think that this is she's not. I think she's not pro dog whisperer, and
Yeah,
I'm not a huge fan of him either. But
but but
yeah,
let's see. No dog trainer is a huge fan of another dog trainer.
yeah, right. There's that. There's that. There's a handful of people that we all get along with, and they're usually in our group.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's usually like a handful of
Um,
people.
so yeah, I mean most trainers are not. They're not big, but I see. Now she wrote this in. I don't know when she wrote this. It was a while ago, but
Yeah, I don't
I'm
have a
sure.
date on here. I just screenshot it. I was like, oh, this is a good topic.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure Caesar was a little more topical at the time.
Yeah.
And all right,
So let's go
so
to does not use food or toys in training. So people tend to think about balance training as dominant training, and you're just going to shock a dog or prong collar, whip them around with a leash or whatever. No, no, no.
yep.
We use rewards, we use toys, we use treats, whatever the dog will work for. We try to find what the dog will work for first. And honestly, most 99% of the time, unless we get a dog that's extremely just not food motivated or anything at all, we start off using clicker training with food or a clicker
Yeah,
training with the ball.
and we'll start, and sometimes we don't. It depends upon where the dog is and how old. But we have plenty of dogs that don't care about food. We have
Mm-hmm.
uh, we had a dog that we trained was the weirdest dog I ever trained, and that um, the positive reinforcement to the dog was I stopped touching it. It didn't want to be touched, so I put
Oh,
my hand on it, and I'd literally put my hand on its side and tell it to sit. And when it sat, I took my hand off of it.
what breed was this?
It was a very it was a very skittish Malinois. It,
A
it, it
Malamar?
was a very skittish Malinois with bite inhibition, and I couldn't believe the dog wasn't biting me. Somehow I don't know how it was horrible genetics.
Well,
So
yeah,
yeah,
we'll
so
get into
it
that
but
some other time.
the yeah, I mean, because it came with a loving home and this and that. And I saw dogs that they've had before and since, and they really had no problem. And this was the one dog that was
Well,
problematic for them. And so yeah, so that dog, it didn't want to do things for me. And when I found like didn't want to sit, I'd put a little pressure on its butt and it would sit. I got to the point where I found out that if I put my hand on it and gave it a command and it did it. So this is negative reinforcement, like very much so. All I did was touch it. And as soon as it
Mhm.
started to do what I wanted to do, I took my hand off of it. Okay, just laid my hand on it. If I pet it, it did not find it rewarding. Remember, rewards in the eye of the receiver. Uh,
Yep,
so it's not what we think it is.
exactly.
So it didn't want food, didn't want a ball, didn't want to be touched.
Yep.
And that's how, so it was a combination of leash work. We went to off leash work with a remote collar because the
Mhm.
dog would occasionally bolt, and they had property upstate New York. They still do, and and that's how we handle the dog. Is literally
So
stop touching it.
this also comes into play of nature versus nurture. Just because the dog was nurtured properly, it's nature, it's
Right,
genetics. It's,
right,
you know, you can't.
yeah. It's a big
Um,
deal. It's a big deal.
so that comes into 9 claims to use all methods of dog training. But why
Yep,
wouldn't you want to try all methods? You have to try what works for that dog. That's how I see it, at least. You have to
100%.
find what
It
language that dog speaks and use that.
again comes with number 6 won't use training collars or prong collars if they will not use all methods within all humane methods. I mean, let's just
Yeah.
you know hitting hitting the dog with hot pokers isn't humane, so
No, no.
that's not a legitimate method. So, but using any if not using any humane method, and they don't consider it humane, which is their problem, but not using any real method like that is again, there's a reason they're going to put down a lot of dogs, a lot of dogs. So
Yeah. Yeah.
um, one,
So
two,
number 8
three.
is something I do agree with. Does not take continuing education classes or seminars. I think as a dog trainer, you
Let's
should
go to
always keep up on your training. You should always learn from other trainers, learn their techniques, learn what they do, positive only, balanced trainers. Take
the.
from every trainer that you can learn from and apply it what fits you and fits the dog that you're working with at that time. Because
Yep,
one training method might work for one dog fabulously, but then you put it on another dog and it's just a shit show.
sure, and I
So
really think that
that I
as
do
far as
agree.
taking taking education classes, I'll even go further and make sure you take education classes with methodologies you don't agree with.
Yeah.
Because you're probably going to walk in there going, nah, and come out going, oh, all right, I can use, of the 30 things they taught, I'll use 2, but it's 2 more that you have that you didn't before.
Yep. Put it in your
And
tool belt. Save it for when you need it.
right, you never know. And I think that that's incredibly, incredibly important. And so not only can take continuing education classes, do things outside of your comfort zone, and
Mhm.
sometimes with things that you don't agree with. And I think that's important for
Yeah.
every dog trainer. Go to number 2 if you could.
Number 2, okay, calls themselves a behaviorist and is not a DVM or PhD.
That is a great subject because we get that a lot. We train with so and so and they're a behaviorist, and the
Hmm.
chances are they're not.
Yeah, they're not.
They're not.
Just goes
So
back up to one where,
um,
you know, their credentials.
now, now that said, there's places. I went to a seminar a few years ago when a woman was trying to create a nationally recognized credential, and
Hmm.
it was with the Long Island trainers, whatever. I forget the name of the
Yeah.
group. I think Nancy Hassel put it together. There's a bunch of people from Long Island prep professionals. So she came in and she was really interesting. However, she was then trying to mandate it. So she was trying to go. So she gathered a bunch of dog trainers. Said, "This is what I want to do,"
Oh, I
and
think
then
I
she wanted
heard of
to
that.
go to get it mandated in Nassau and Suffolk County. And we were just collectively were like, "Nope, absolutely not."
Yeah, I think I heard of that. That was
Yeah,
like
that's where
pre-COVID,
things go
wasn't
off
it?
the rails. Yeah, because like anything that you can overly involve the government in, they're kind of going to screw up sooner or later. It's the whims of public opinion and have little to do with professionalism.
Yeah.
So hard no. Uh,
Plus,
but
then, like, Yeah, just more taxes.
Yeah, right. And then then she licensing fees, and she wanted to be the person. I'm like, no, we are not doing
So
that.
my thing is the DVM, Doctor of Veterinary Medicine. Can they be a dog trainer? Yes. Are most of them? No.
Doctor Laura, she's if Doctor Laura was not a veterinarian, she could work for us in about 30 seconds.
Yeah, but
She's vet.
she's also worked with dog trainers. She has working dogs. She's trained working dogs. She's competed her working
Yes,
dogs. She's not just, the doctor. And
she's not your average vet.
yeah, my sister-in-law is a veterinarian and absolutely love her. But she does come to me for advice, and her and my sister, who is a vet tech, they come to me for advice for training. And I go to them for advice when my dog's sick. Like, what do I do?
Right,
um,
sure,
but
sure.
just because you have that, and like that's the thing, is dog training is experience. It's hands on the leash. It's working with the dogs. And it's also a bit of an art too. You have to have the feel for it. You have to be able to learn the dog. Some people are like, "Oh, the dog's tail was wagging. Why did it bite me?" Because just because the dog's tail is wagging doesn't mean it's happy. Sometimes dogs wag their tail when they're aggressive.
Sometimes they're wagging the tail because they get to bite you.
Yeah,
It's happy.
exactly.
They
It's all
get to
about.
bite your ass.
And sometimes they're
Yeah.
like, "Well, we didn't show any aggression. They just bit me." I'm like, "Yeah, because you don't really know. Like, a lot of the aggression is right in the eyes. Like, if you can't read that dog's eyes, you can't train it."
Yeah, eyes,
Yeah, you can
face,
teach it to
tail.
sit.
It all goes together. All of it.
Yeah, you might be able to teach it to sit and stay. Like, yeah, it holds a sit. Yeah, it stays. It can lay down. But when it comes down to the nitty gritty with the aggression and stuff like that, like you have to really
Mhm.
be able to read the body language of the dog, down to just the simplest of the eye movements.
Yep, and there are vets who can do that because they're handling dogs that try to bite them. So, like, props to them for that.
Yeah,
But it's my understanding that most veterinarians get zero, zero behavioral classes in
yeah,
college. They don't
mhm,
get hands-on in training. Now, granted, they handle a lot of dogs. Obviously,
they
their
do.
handling experience is massive, and their vet techs even
Yeah,
more so. But so
but
calls themselves a behavior to go
they're
back
handling
to this.
more restraining.
Yes, they're handling restraining, but
Yeah,
they got their hands full.
yeah,
So but calls themselves a behaviorist and not a DVM or PhD. So we get a lot of people who come in and say, "Oh, I'm so and so's a behaviorist." No, they're not. They read a few books. They went to a few courses.
hmm,
There's now a 2-year college course in New York that are coming out behaviorally trained. That's still not a behaviorist. A behaviorist, I think, it's a master's minimum, but I do believe it's really a PhD.
yeah,
So true veterinary behaviorists are psychologists and trained in animal behavior and DVMs, so they can prescribe medication. And there's a handful of them. There's
hmm,
not, I think there's 100 or 150 in the
yeah.
country.
There's not a
Top.
lot.
There's not many at all.
And
So the
you know
chance
what
to
the thing
have
is a lot of these behaviorists, that the PhDs and the DVMs and stuff like that, they are for balance training because they understand how it works and the 4 quadrants.
hmm. Yeah, some of them are, but I mean, some of them are institutionalized, and the schools. So the problem with even their training is the schools themselves don't teach any adversive training. So they
No.
don't teach you how to stop a behavior. They're trying to solve a
Yeah.
behavior and fix a behavior, but they don't teach you how to stop a behavior.
Hmm.
And
How do
that's
you stop a
where,
behavior?
if they're sticking with what they learned in college, that's where they fall down, and that's where
Hmm.
we crush them in record time.
Hmm.
We crush them. The results. So, all right, so I would say, all right, number two, calls themselves a behaviorist and is not a DVM and PhD.
Hmm.
I actually agree with that. So I think that's number
Yeah,
two is actually something that we can completely agree with her on
we can
this.
agree with that one. So we
Yeah,
agree
agree
with
with that.
what is it? Number 8 and number 2. The whole dog
Yeah,
whisperer thing too. I like.
I'm not a fan of him.
I feel like some trainers say that or use that just for clout.
Yeah, and they usually suck. The ones who say that, they usually suck. Let's be honest, they
I've
usually suck.
had I've had clients be like, "Oh, you're like the dog whisperer," and I'm like, "No, I'm Nicole."
No. No, yeah, no, that's not that's not
Or I
a
just laugh.
that's not a compliment. Oh, you just like the dog whisperer? That's not a compliment.
Yeah.
Not at all.
Unfortunately, I'm not making millions off my own show.
Right, right. It's a friend of mine actually knew him before he came here and knew which end of a leash to hold, and
Oh,
we were
really?
friends with him. Yeah, yeah.
He seems like a nice
He
guy.
was.
Like, I'm not hating on him,
Oh,
but
I'm sure he's a great guy.
yeah, I'm sure he's a nice guy.
I'm sure he's a fantastic guy.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, a friend of mine's he's a really good trainer, and I don't know that I can use his name, but he used to be involved in PSA, and
Oh, okay.
he's on the West Coast. Really good dude. Been in a few movies. His dogs have been in a bunch of movies,
Oh, that's
and
cool.
great guy.
That's
So
cool.
what else? I think we are down to number
Number
10,
10.
right?
Yeah. Number 10 has experiencing experience training only working dogs, military slash police dogs, and is advertising to pet dog owners.
That is dicey. They're not wrong. It's just
So
not right.
there is a big difference between a military police dog trainer and a dog
Yes.
handler. Just because
Hmm.
they handle the dog in the military, just because they handle the dog on the force, you know, doesn't necessarily mean that they know what goes on in the dog's brain, how to cultivate aggression, how to turn it on, how to turn it off, all of
Right.
that.
Yep. Yep.
They, like I said,
So
anybody can teach a dog to sit and stay.
right. So this is where if you take it at face value, number
Hmm.
10, experience only working military, working police dogs.
Hmm.
If it's just that, I agree with it.
Yes.
However, in this world of people diving down the rabbit hole of you, I mean, let's face it,
Yeah.
there's so much information on YouTube.
Oh,
There's
so much.
so many good books out there, so
Hmm.
many good seminars. People that they're cops. Like we've had it. You know, we've had cops from NYPD,
Yep.
Nassau County Police Department. We've had
Have
my
you had
local
something else?
police here in now that I'm here in Virginia.
Yeah.
But right, they've come down to train with
Hmm.
us to learn better, and they wind up learning to train
Yeah.
pet dogs. Why? Because they worked with us.
Yeah.
So they're touting the they're touting their experience with police or military because it impresses people,
It does.
but that may not be their only skill set. Like for instance, so I I have the retriever training, and it's something that I've learned to do, and I'm decent at. I'm not the best retriever trainer in the world, not even close. But I
Hmm.
have retriever training dogs and pictures of them on the side of our van, right? So it looks really good. It's really impressive. And I was down in Georgia and had that, and it says, retriever training on it. And it was with there was an event where there's a whole bunch of retriever trainers.
Yeah.
And my friend Adam, that's his from the Next Generation Gun Dogs. So they all have the dog trucks and the trailers and all that stuff with 35 dogs with them. And he's like, dude, he's like, this is not going to go over well. And I'm like, I don't. He's like, they're not because people are. He goes, they're going to have to make fun of you. I'm like, when I want their opinion, I'll let them know. And he's like, yeah, it's a little bit of a dick move. I'm like, not really. I said, this isn't there. The retriever training on my
Hmm.
truck, like the protection training, if I put that
Yeah.
on a truck, isn't for the protection training crowd and the retriever training crowd. It's for the average pet owner to go, wow, they can do that.
Yeah.
They can really train my dog. And that's what
Hmm.
a lot of police and
Yeah.
military handlers do.
And that's the thing is all the not all the a lot of the police handlers that I know, they then go and they realize that they need to get a better education and they do become dog trainers. We have one of our friends. I'm not going to say his name on here, but he is a canine handler, and he started working with my boyfriend. Um,
Mhm.
and I think was he working with you too, or was he just doing the
No, no,
protection
he
stuff?
he's
And
on his own stuff. Yeah,
yeah, and he became a dog trainer because he learned so much. When you learn, when you do that type of learning of how to raise a puppy from, a puppy up into a working dog, you get even more knowledge than your basic pet trainer because you can understand what makes the dog's brain tick. And that's what it comes
right.
down to is what makes that dog's brain tick, what gets that dog's attention, what do you need to use or not use for the dog to understand what you want from it. Um,
Right.
and just your basic pet trainer that uses treats, your Petco trainer, like, they don't really understand that, or they might to an extent, but they can only get your dog so far. And if
Right.
you want to pass the CGC test and stuff like that, you need more than just like, here's a treat, sit down.
Right. Right. It's
Like one of our trainers,
we go ahead.
Michelle,
Sorry.
she's one of our trainers that gives the test in Long Island, and she's really good. She knows how to. She's not a canine handler. She's a school teacher, but she understands the science behind it, and she's a really
Hmm.
good trainer.
Well, yeah, Michelle throws herself into it. She's very smart, so
Yeah,
Michelle's a bit nerdy with training, and
there's nothing wrong
she's
with
a
that.
fellow. Well, I mean, she's also listen.
Yeah, I know.
She's a woman who's probably a little younger than me, where she's a Rush fan. So automatically, most people who are Rush fans, I'm a Rush fan. So that she and I like bonded over. We both like Rush, and for those of you who may be younger, it's a rock group. It's a rock trio, and
I know of
so
them, but I don't know any of their songs.
yeah, the lyrics are a little. The lyrics are a little. When you get into them, the lyrics are a little deep. The music isn't average, and the people who go there they're a little heady, nerdy kind of, and that's her. So I sometimes think I'm not smart enough to be a Rush fan, but I somehow I love that group. So anyway, so we but then she came to us, and then she went to Bart Balone School, and Bart's
Mhm.
clearly a genius in what he
Oh yeah,
does. So she's gone down the road, and she's on the especially for our company. If anything, she's on the softer side, where it doesn't mean that she won't use her corrections. She definitely will, but she leans towards she of any of the trainers in our company who's constantly wearing a treat pouch. It's her.
it is.
It's
Yeah,
just chronic.
she always has
You know,
treats on
it's
her.
yeah, and she does rally, and she does the sports that the positive only groups predominantly do,
Yeah,
and
and
she's yeah, she's different
her
there.
personal dogs are really good dogs.
Oh, solidly good dogs.
They're so cute too.
Yeah. But they they have their challenges in training,
Yeah,
and
every dog does.
so of course. But and I'm going to just circle back to what you were saying before about that other person who came and worked with with your boyfriend and worked with us back
Mhm.
then. I remember when he came in, he goes, listen, he goes, we and just his department didn't want them. A lot of police departments don't want
They don't want
people
them training.
training, especially the bigger ones, because they think they
Yeah,
are. I don't know what to do. What can you do? What would you charge us? And we're like, we got you. Like we're just gonna.
we're very
And
pro
so
police, and we will help out as much as we can.
we're exceedingly pro police. Exceedingly pro police.
Yeah,
Um, so if you're anti cop, sorry, we're not your crowd.
yeah,
But so we're working with him. He's showing up and doing the work and doing this, and then literally like a few months later, they're like, "Man, you're getting so much better, and your dog's getting so much better. How'd you do that?" He goes, I'm just watching the videos." He couldn't admit it. He couldn't admit he was working with us, but he's like, and he got way better. And they went from like he was one of the canine guys to starting making him like a trainer in the
yeah.
department,
They
and he
started
went up
making.
the
Yep,
yeah, and then eventually
and
came out on his own and did his own little side thing, and he's doing great.
he is. He's a really good trainer. He's a really good person overall. And he did great. And it just, he helped pick some of the dogs that they got or that they had donated to their department. From what my boyfriend told me, I could be wrong, but I know
Yeah.
that my boyfriend, who was also a police officer, was helping him train those dogs
Yep. Yeah.
for a short while there until they didn't need it really much anymore.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Jersey guys, I found that out years ago. So as much as, especially in New York, they didn't want you training outside of
Mhm.
that. The
Outside of their program.
Yeah, their program. We saw a
Mhm.
lot of the canine handlers in Jersey. We train with them, and I'm not, Sit Me and Sit is another company. It's a big company. I'm afraid not afraid. I personally trained with them
Mhm.
years ago, and they had a lot. They have a lot of seminars. A lot of outside people come in, and you
Yeah.
have all the canine handlers and all the police cars from different departments in for training. and they were training with outside trainers regularly to the point where that was normal. And those group of canine handlers are solid,
They're
really
solid, yeah.
solid.
I've actually been to quite a few of those seminars, and I have certificates from them and everything. I
Yeah,
didn't work
yeah,
a dog in them, unfortunately, because at the time I was still a newbie and learning. But it was good to see. It was really good to see. And
yeah.
I remember one of the seminars they were trying to teach the dog live bites, and they were showing that the best way to do a live bite or like to teach a dog is to wrap your arm in newspaper and
We
put a
did
sweater
that.
over it
We did
instead
that.
of a bite sleeve. And I just thought it was the coolest thing.
Yeah, it was newspaper, duct tape, and then,
Yep.
but we had I think it was Belgian, just a Belgian dude, and it was another we weren't at the same seminar, but it was us. Hill was there, Hillel Schwartzman, because he had Bocce's brother at the time, and that dog since passed. But we were doing the live bite things, and I was
Yeah.
like, this is, and it was literally newspaper wrapped around the arm, duct tape, and then like burlap, and
Yep.
that so it was all the pressure with almost none of the punctures. Almost none of the punctures.
Almost.
Yeah. It was some wicked bruising. That was brutal. Absolutely brutal.
Oh, yeah,
So,
I'm gonna pass on doing that. I'll
yeah,
let
I
my
don't
dog
blame you.
bite, but I'm not gonna be the one taking the bite.
At this stage, I don't know that I'd do it either. I mean, it's, but my 30s and early 40s were different, but now it's a little different. So, yeah. So I think that was a good list. A good fun. Really good fun, Nicole.
Thanks, thanks. Just late night sitting on my phone.
Yeah,
I
I get that.
was like, oh, this is interesting.
So, all right. So, anything else? That it?
No, I think we're good. I will talk to you later. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. I hope you
Thank
all
you
have
for,
a
yeah,
good
Beyond the
week.
Leash. We appreciate this is the second, right? Second one? Second one.
Second one, yeah.
All right. Looking forward to get these up. All right.